Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and the one I'm working on is Merlin Models ATST Chickenwalker from the Return of the Jedi. So I'm deviating a little bit from what I normally do for videos. Normally I'm pulling a kit out from my stash and working on it. Hopefully it's a model that's been in the stash a long time. This one was not. This came in the mail a couple weeks ago, and as soon as I got the box, I really wanted to put it together. So in terms of constructing this, I've already done that. So this video is going to be just painting the actual Chickenwalker. And the paints I'm going to be using are called Archive X. They're supposed to be very close to the original colors that was used for the painting of the various Star Wars model kits in the first three films, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. The colors seem to be fairly accurate in terms of those movies, and also the pictures in my Star Wars Chronicles book. I've used those colors for all the Star Wars kits, so I'll be using the same colors on this kit as well. Now, I will say in terms of constructing this, when you're watching the five-part series that Merlin Models puts out, putting this together, at times it's a little unclear where some of these parts go. So if you could have another reference on where some of these parts go, that's a great help, because it's not 100% clear at times. At other times, I will say that the instructions, you sort of need to deviate from them just slightly because of the fact that it's not as easy putting these screws in. So a couple things I did when it came to constructing this model. All the screws that I put in, I used oil. I got a little jar of oil right here, as a matter of fact. So I oiled them up for a reason. I didn't want to strip the screws. And it made it a lot easier to put the screws into place using oil. And also, at times, you're going to have to back this stuff. You're going to have to back these screws out and reset them. And having that oil makes it a lot easier, trust me. Another thing that I deviate from when it came to constructing this model, and I'll go over this in a minute, is I wanted to be able to pull this model apart and be able to box it at any point. And I didn't want parts to break off of here. So you'll see in a minute what some of the changes I made. But just real briefly, one change I made was right down here on the foot. So what I did was I replaced the part that came with this with a aluminum tube. And that allows me to then insert that piece, that toe piece, into the foot real easily. And you know, that's something that they didn't show you on the film. In the videos, what they want you to do is to glue the part in place. The only challenge there is if you need to play around with the foot, it's very easy to break off once you glue it in place. So I recommend making some changes to it that you feel comfortable doing to be able to pull this apart. Another thing I did was I used magnets throughout here as well. Now you'll see that some of the parts are not in place, and that's because this is preparation for painting. So I got a bag of parts right here. I'll be painting these up separately and then installing them when the time comes. Some of these parts I have on there right now, I'm actually going to be removing. And when it comes to the hosing, so this is all the hose that comes with it. You do not want to get any paint on these. So keep these separate. And the reason why I'm saying you don't want to get any paint on those is because when you look at the Star Wars Chronicles book and look at the actual studio scale model, you'll see right away that there's no paint on any of the hosing. In fact, I would recommend keeping it as clean as possible. So that'll be the last step that I do. Once I get all the painting done, I'll put the hosing on and put it in place. That way it best replicates what the actual studio scale model looks like. In terms of preparation for this, after you put it together, I had to do a little bit of preparation on this model kit. There were divots on the head here that I had to fill in. Overall, I found the molding exceptional. It's very crisp, very clear molding, but I had to fill in a few spots here. Also, this metal piece up here, where it was joined together and welded. In the middle here, there were some divots in the metal, so I had to fill that in as well. So, take your time as you're putting this together. Take a look at the different parts and understand that you may end up having to make some changes. So what I'm going to go over in just a second is the changes that I made, and you can think about doing it yourself. So remove the head here, and then I'll go over all the parts. Oh yeah, I should mention this guy here, don't get any paint on this. This is supposed to be black, and this is for the neck piece. So definitely, there's a number of places where you don't need to get paint. Some of the metal areas show wear and tear too, and I'm going to try to replicate that as best I can. But again, you don't want to get any paint where you don't want it. And certainly like this brace in the back here should not be painted, as well as some of the stuff going on here. So I'll go over in a second the modifications I made, and you can think about doing it as well. Okay, guys, so the first change I made was to the foot. And as I mentioned earlier, I used an aluminum tube for this. So it's just a matter of just drilling out a hole and then inserting it in here and actually just screwing in place here. In the video, they want you to glue the part into place. The only challenge I saw with that is if you're making adjustments to the foot, or you want to box it up, you run the risk of breaking this off. So it's easier just to pull it off and then insert it in. The other advantage by doing this is you can then adjust this around. In the Archive X book, they show that this piece actually is opposable. So it can go, is actually designed to go up and down like this. In fact, I think there's one picture I saw where the image had this toe up in the up position, like here. So there's actually a hinge someplace inside here to allow it to go up and down. I thought about doing something like that with this, and I just couldn't come up with a good way of doing it without ruining the plastic part. So this is the alternative, which is basically being able to insert it in here, and then just playing around with it, moving it around. I think it works a lot better this way than just gluing in place. So that was the first change that I made with this model. The second change I made came with this side gun here. So again, I used an aluminum tube for that. I actually filled in the tube with a piece of sprue and made it solid. And this tube, it's the same size or the same diameter as the hole. So it just slides right in and holds in place. Now I use an aluminum tube. They give us a plastic piece here to glue in place, but I just didn't think it was stable enough, so I went with this aluminum tube, which I know is not going to break. The next change I made was this side gun, and I used a magnet here. So put a magnet in place here, and as well as here. That way it just clicks right into place, and it holds, and you can make any sort of adjustments. I did the same thing down here. I did a magnet here too. For this gun, again, there's a magnet there and there. I had to build up this because being able to insert it into the hole there, and it just holds right in place. I like that because it's easy to remove this gun without taking a chance of breaking it. Another change that I made was they want you to use shrink tubing down here, and I have shrink tubing, but it's a lot bigger than the diameter calls for this. So I again use aluminum tubing. You know, quite frankly, you could use plastic tubing as well. And I actually took a look at doing that. I ended up going with aluminum tubing only because the inside diameter is a lot bigger than my plastic tubing was. The other change that I made came to the body. I'll get these parts out of the way first. And what they want you to use is tack glue for these parts. I ended up using double-sided tape. And the reason why I went with the double-sided tape as opposed to tack glue was because the fact that I had to make some adjustments to these screws at times. A lot easier to pull the part off with double-sided tape than it would be to tack glue. I think with tack glue, I ended up having to clean that glue off and then re-glue it. So I recommend using double-sided tape here. I'm actually using double-sided tape for the foot down here as well, which is a little off camera, but you get the idea. I'm not even sure if I really need the double-sided tape down there. But you definitely want to, I think they recommend using double-sided tape anyways, because you might need to get to the access to the screws for adjustments. So that is a good recommendation on their part. Now, another thing that I did is I talked about, I did some pre-painting of this model kit. Pull this guy off. So one area that I pre-painted is in the back here, this grilling. This needs to be black, so it was easier to paint it black while the part was not installed, and then I'll just use some tape to cover it up to prevent any paint from getting on there. The other thing that you'll need to consider doing when it comes to painting this is the hosing. As you can see, you can play around with this quite a bit. So the hosing I also pre-painted, and what the hosing I'm talking about is not the hosing I showed earlier. It's these really delicate parts in here. This needs to be painted black as well. And obviously I haven't installed these parts yet, so these go on the back of the head. Back here, let me get you out of the way, guy. So they go back here. So again, this needs to be painted black before you install that. So so the idea is going to be, I'm just going to paint this guy up in the back here, and then once I'm satisfied with the paint, then I'll put the hose on. And they tell you that in the instructions too. Another thing, another modification I made to this was, where is it? Find the other parts. Yeah. And that's to the hosing. Well, not hosing, but they want you to use shrink tubing, black shrink tubing for the back of the gun. So it actually goes in this part right here. Really thin diameter. I think it's 1 millimeter diameter. I didn't have that, and I wasn't going to spend the money for it. But I did have some aluminum tubing that's of the same size. So I'll be using this instead. As you can see, it's already painted black. That just gets installed back here. And the hose will eventually get installed. That's supposed to run out of the back here into this part here. Again, I just wanted to get like things, make changes as I saw fit for this kit to make it easier to pull apart. All right, so that's where we stand right now. So the next step is to actually pull this guy apart. and start the painting process. So I'm going to start with the body first and then move on to the head. Um, Head's going to be the most complicated part of the painting process. From what I can tell in the Archive X book, the body itself, other than some wear and tear at spots, is pretty consistent in terms of the coloring. So some of these parts I'm going to be pulling off, like the front here. I don't even know why I put these on. Um, but they're going to have to get painted in the back as well as the front. And the other thing is the feet. So in the original Star Wars movie, these feet are covered with moss and grass and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing the same thing with this as well. I get some of this grass that I'll be using, and I get some moss also. I'll be adding that to the feet. So that's where we stand right now. So when I come back, I'll show you the progress that I made in terms of priming the body and the head. Okay, guys, I'm back with another update. So what I did was I primed all the parts with this Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 gray. Once that was dry, I then applied the Armor gray to everything. And once that was dry, I then flat coated everything just to protect the paint. Now, one thing I'm noticing is that some of the parts, and you can sort of see what's happening here, is if any of these parts move, you end up taking a little bit of the paint off, which I also noticed happened to the studio scale model as well. So I'm not really surprised something like that's happening. In fact, when I go over some of the pictures, you'll see that some of the paint had started coming off, wearing off. So, I guess that's to be expected. So my plan is right now is to start with the body, and then I'll address some of the legs as well. The feet will be something addressed later on when I want to apply the moss and grass. But I just want to go over some of the things I noticed in the Star Wars Chronicles book in terms of these pictures. So this is the back side. As you can see that there's some weathering going on here. Rusting, really. I think this is natural rusting for these screws. I don't think that was intentional weathering. Even this screw is is rusting up pretty well. It looks like they might have added some rust effects in the back here, as well as some splotches of paint. What gets a little interesting is this image here. This is the underside of this part. And it looks like they did a little bit of scorching here. These parts I haven't added just yet. Also showing some of the scorching and maybe a little bit of weathering going on. But this isn't a color image, so it's a little hard to tell exactly what those colors are. But I think they were probably a mixture of maybe a little bit of the dark, some black color or something like that. I get a little bit further in, and you can see in this image here a little bit of weathering going on, like with this piece here. That's a plastic piece on the side right here. So got that going on, and then this is a good shot of the back side again, where you could see a little bit more of the weathering going on. Unfortunately, there's no image on a really good color image of the underside. What gets interesting is if I go back to this image here, you see that there's some weathering going on the back side of the leg. That's a rust. I think this is natural rust. I don't think it was weathering. Well, I'm going to make it weathering. You can see that there's a little bit of light tanning going on here and here, possibly. So, so yeah, I'm going to start with the body first, get that weathered up, and then I'll proceed to the legs. You can see like some of the paint came off of these metal parts here, just wore off over time. So I might be able to reproduce that too. Just take a really fine sandpaper and just sand off some of the paint that I've already applied, just to try and replicate that as best I can. So I'm just going to go to town with this, using these pictures as sort of a guide to understand what they end up doing. And I'll show you the end result based on my success or lack of success of trying to reproduce this. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, guys, so I've been working on the body, and this is where we stand right now. And a little bit on the front. So what appears based on the images in the book, definitely the screws are rusted and the back screws are rusted. This one's a little bit of rusting going on, but these are almost completely rusted, and there's a little bit of rust going on here. As you can see, it's a little bit on the lighter side. So I'm going to show you a technique that I've been using. So, like for example, I got a little bit of, I don't know, it's a little bit of weathered black, and I've been using, like for example, I've been using the weathered black wherever there's black, because I don't want black on here, but it looks like it's weathered black is the way to go. And what I've been doing, and there's actually a little bit of, what I can tell, a little bit of this going on the underside here. Let me just check the image. And yeah, all right, so there's just a little bit of that going on. So I take a little bit of the black, dip it in some water, and then just apply it here. Just dab it down. Nothing heavy going on. Just dab it down and take a Q-tip and just, that's a little bit heavier than I want. I'll try it again. No big deal. Dab it down, and then get until I like it, which is, there we go. So you can see it's a little heavy right now. And then just give it a second. And then there we go. Yeah. So it's about at the spot where I want it to be. We're close to it. You take a little bit of wet. This side is a little bit of wet, the Q-tip, and just feather the edges a little. It's not wet, but it's wet enough that it'll just feather where I want it to go. Yeah, so I did that. Wherever there's black, a little bit of rust, as you can see, there's a little bit of rust going on there as well. And then the back here, it was a little hard to tell what's going on the side here. So I ended up using the Reefer White here as well. I did the same thing, just dabbed it on, then brushed it off a few times until I got to the point that I like. Now what's interesting is this front piece right here. It looks to me like what happened was the paint got rubbed off the original model part. Yeah, now I look at that, I think the paint got rubbed off the original model part. And trying to reproduce that is going to be virtually impossible. So what I'm going to do is do the same technique and probably just use the, yeah, I think I'm going to use a little bit of the Reefer White color. And just apply that there. So it's just a couple of spots. So it looks like it's here. Something like that. Yeah, this is it's actually pretty close. And then oh, not what I wanted. So let me try it again. There we go. Not perfect, but then again, it's got a lot of stuff going on here that needs to be addressed. This front fender, I think, has a little bit of weathering on that too, but it's a little hard to tell in the images that I'm looking at. Yeah, yeah, they do. It does have a little bit of weathering going on. It looks like they use the Reefer Black in the front, or not Reefer Black, the weathered black in the front here. So same thing. I'm just going to apply. Be nice if it was in camera. Just apply it here like this. Take my Q-tip and apply it with a down stroke. There we go. Yeah, I think combination of the just a little bit there. Combination of the wet Q-tip and the dry Q-tip seems to work best on doing this technique. There. I could not reproduce this with an airbrush. I wouldn't even try. But I think, yeah, this is pretty darn close to the image. Yeah. Satisfied. Yeah, there's also a little bit of weathering on the front here too, from what I can tell. Again, it's hard to gauge these images because I don't have it to the point where you can see every little aspect of it. But it looks to me like, from what I can tell, they had a little bit of weathering going on in the front. Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit of weathering. Again, I'm going to use the black here. Oops. Use the black here, same thing. A little bit of there too. And just basically take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on, till you build it up. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly like the way they had it going on. I suspect what might have happened is, in some of these areas, it might have been just natural, people just touching the prop, adjusting it, and maybe they had something on their fingers and it just got on there. I don't think it was intentional. At least I don't believe it is. Could also have been over time that it's been handled. And the end result is you got a little bit of this weathering going on. Yeah, that is very... Now that I look at the image, this is very close to what they got. Yeah, so at this point, I would say this is pretty much done. I'll have to take a look at the underside here. I think there was some scorching going on at the underside. But again, that was a black and white image, so it's a little hard to tell, but I think I'm going to use the same technique. I'll just do the scorching using the weathered black in those areas that it needs to be. and then just use my Q-tip and rub it off. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. So as you can see, none of these colors are stark colors. They really just give you a hint that there's some sort of coloring going on. This is the only stark area that I saw in the image, and that was rust. So I did a combination of putting it on, dabbing it on, then taking my my Q-tip and rubbing it off, and then just putting a little bit on there just to give an approximation of what's going on. And again, there's stuff going on here. Yeah, this was intentional. Couldn't figure out what's going on there. I didn't see anything in the images on the top of this at all. So again, I think some of this is probably just natural, people just touching this over time and rubbing it off with their fingers. I think that's what was going on. I'm not 100% positive, but, and again, this unfortunately is, I think, is a combination of just paint just getting rubbed off the original model part. And it's interesting, all the screws were rusted, or just about all of them were rusted. I didn't see any rusting on these screws up here. And this screw here also didn't have a rust indication. And I don't know what's going on the underside with these screws here, but I'll play around with this a little bit more and then bring you up to date on where this stands. Okay, guys, I'm back with another update. So the body is pretty much done. So I'm dealing with black and white imaging, and it's hard to tell what all the colors are supposed to be. So I used weathered black for all the streaking. Now, based on the black and white image, this is a screw right here, even though it's molded into the plastic. But I assumed, given that all the other screws are showing some sort of rusting, I applied a rust effect on the screw there. And then again, using my my paintbrush and then also my Q-tips, just gently rub off the paint. I didn't mention earlier, but one of the reasons why I flat coated everything was to be able to remove the paint. So you just get your Q-tip a little damp, and it's easy to just remove the paint, the excess paint. And the end result is that it looks like it's weathering very close to the images in the book. Now I'll glue these fenders in place in a second, but having access with the fenders removed allowed me to also address this ball. There's weathering in the back and the front here, and I think having the fender glued into place, it would have been more difficult to get to the side of the ball. This area is, according to the black and white image anyways, it's definitely something going on here. So I used the weathered black in this area, and then I used my Q-tip to just gently go across here and remove the excess. You'll notice that in the black and white image, those boxes don't have any paint on them, or don't appear to. And then also the this area around here also doesn't seem to have any paint. So this is where that stands. And then in the back here, same thing. I used the weathered black back here and just use my Q-tip to take off the excess. So that's where this stands right now. Interestingly enough, the top area, from what I could tell, it doesn't look like any of the screws are rusted. Doesn't look like there's anything going on here in terms of weathering. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Now that I got this done, what I'm going to do is glue the fenders in place and probably even flat coat all this stuff. Just protect the paint from being removed. Again, it looks like it matches the book. I wouldn't say 100% accurate. It's probably about 50% accurate, but it's good enough for this model anyways. So that's where this stands. Next, I'm going to have to address the legs, and the feet is going to come later on once I get the model assembled. But yeah, the next step is definitely getting this all locked in and working on the leg area. So I'll show you what I'm doing with the legs in a minute. So for colors, I used a combination of 1975 Earth, weathered black, the 1975 Foundation, and then rust. I actually went with the Vallejo rust colors. I thought this was a little bit more accurate for the screws. So I'll start with the left leg first. So this screw is, I don't know if you can see it, this is rusted. So I used a combination of the two rust colors for that. Now anywhere that there's black, that's the weathered black. Except for down here. So I used a combination of weathered black, and it looked like it was earth as well. So that was for these areas that this moves. And then on the side here, a little bit of the weathered black and earth as well. And the very back here was the 1975 Foundation. Again, just taking some of the paint, letting it settle in, and then just rubbing it with my Q-tips. In the front here, same thing. There was some sort of streaking going on. Not very much, but enough that you would notice that front. There's nothing going on this side, on the right side. However, there is, again, weathered black here, and throughout the front as well, with a little bit of earth mixed in. And then the very back, this whole side here was foundation, as well as here too. So yeah, so that's where the legs stand. Pretty much the legs are done. Now the body is done. Now taking a look at the images, I don't see anything really going on with weathering wise on these two parts. However, I will say that some of the paint has rubbed off, probably through use. So it's down to the bare metal in these areas. So I may end up taking a piece of sandpaper and just rubbing that off at some point. For right now, I'm going to leave it as is. So that's where we stand right now for the legs and the body. I'm going to add, maybe I should mention one other thing. I saw another photograph of these two fenders, and there's actually, these are actually earth colors here too. So you got the streaking going on, so you definitely want to have that. I ended up just doing a wash of the earth and brushing it on, and then just removing it with a wet Q-tip just to make it look like it's used. The top side, there's nothing going on from what I can tell. So that's where these two guys now stand. Actually, they go like this, left and right. Yeah, so we're all set there. So I guess the next step is to assemble the body and see how that looks. Okay, guys, so I got the body assembled and it's fully painted. I got the feet on just temporarily. They're fully painted as well with that gray paint. As you can see, the neck piece is not painted. It's not supposed to be, so it's a nice black rubber. So you can see some of the rust effects I added, like to the screws here. And you can see some of the other painting I did on the legs. Again, just using the Star Wars Chronicles book as a reference, those pictures. I kind of like some of the rust effects I put on the screws in the back. With that being said, though, you can see paint is coming off in some of these joints, which happened to the original prop too. You could see paint just worn right off. Probably handling, when they handled the studio model. So I'm just going to leave it like it is, even though this paint is missing. It's not a big deal. Sort of adds character to my model. Let's put it that way. A word of caution, though. When you're adjusting these legs, I recommend removing these straps in the back. And the reason being is when my straps arrived in the mail for this model, these are steel straps and they were already rusting. And so I cleaned the rust off, not really thinking it would make a difference. Unfortunately, it did. It sort of weakened the straps. So when I made an adjustment on one of the legs, it broke off. Now I thought, well, not a big deal. I'll just drill a new hole. And that's what I ended up doing with this. This is the broken piece. I drilled a new hole. But I'll show you that they're actually, by doing that, it's now shorter than the other one is. And I didn't like that idea. So I used the one that didn't break as a template, and I made my own straps. And I used brass instead of steel. So these are brass straps in the back here. Fortunately, I had some brass that was actually, it was twice the width of the original. So all I had to do is just cut it in half and then drill new holes and then paint them up. I think they should have arrived as brass instead of steel for that very reason, because of the rusting. But that's unfortunately not what came with the model. So it's sort of a compromise. Using the original one as a template, I noticed like where the hole is on the edge. Sorry, I can't get it in focus. It's actually a little rounded. So I did the same thing on my brass pieces. I kind of like how they came out anyways. But what I learned as a lesson was, if I make any adjustments to the legs, I'm always going to remove these straps first, then make the adjustments, and then it's just a matter of adding the straps back on and then screwing them down. That's what I'm planning on doing. I recommend doing the same thing to avoid breaking these. And hopefully yours arrive not rusted like mine did. So yeah, this is what the other side looks like again. All painted up, similar to what we see in the Chronicles book. So at this stage, the body's completed, and my plan is now to move on to the head. So in the next video, I'll go over my plans for painting the head. So until next time, guys, stay safe. And looking forward to sharing my next video.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.